Call it in the air.
Heads.
There we go.
Yeah, it's back in my court now.
Oh, man.
You're listening to XVGM Radio. Welcome to XVGM Radio, where the bits keep coming. I'm Justin.
And I'm Mike.
And this is episode 120, Free Pick 6, The Search for 5.
Shout out to Scott McElhone, patron and longtime listener, for the suggestion during our last live show for that one. Too funny.
So perfect.
So, like, normally for free picks for episodes, so just to explain real quick, if this is your first time listening to it, a free pick episode, free picks is where we pick anything we want. There's no specific theme or motif. It is just balls to the wall, craziness, pick whatever you want. So every time I was labeling these, I was initially doing it with Japanese words. So I would like figure out what I wanted to say and then like translate it into Japanese and then put it up.
You'd have the kanji up there.
Right. Or the hiragana or whatever.
Yeah.
So this time around, I was like, I want to do something a little different. So I think initially it was going to be called Free Picks 6.
Yeah, it was definitely Free Pick 6 something.
The five-inning, maybe?
No, I think it was just the 6-inning. Because it was
6-inning, yes.
You said that, and then I said we never actually had a Free Picks 5, because that would have been episode 100.
Right.
That was a listener picks.
And I was like, whoops.
Yeah, so we actually never had a Free Picks 5, and then that's when Scotty was like, oh, what about Free Pick 6, The Search for 5? And I was like, that's perfect.
Yes.
So we're still calling it 6, even though it's technically 5.
Correct. Yeah. You won the coin toss, which means that for the next 20 episodes,
I will be on the evens. I will be starting on the evens. You will be starting on the odds.
Correct.
Yes.
Correct. All right. So what did
Finally,
you...
balance in the world again.
They can't all be gems.
No, that's true.
Yeah.
But this song was kind of a gem.
Yeah, it was.
So the track was called Mizu no Hoshi I wo Komete, or main BGM from Kidou Senshi Z-Gundam Hot Scramble. It was a Famicom game. It didn't come out outside of Japan, but it came out in 1986 and was composed by Neil Sedaka.
You could tell it's a very early NES, Famicom-based track. A lot of the Japanese developers, when they were first like creating music for the system, they did this thing where they wouldn't use like doubled up harmonized layers of music. They would just use like one tone. So all the music sounds especially tinny. Sunsoft was a good example of this with games like Wing of Medulla.
Oh, yeah.
Which has a great soundtrack, but it's super simplistic in terms of, like, if you're comparing it with Sunsoft's later works, like, Batman and...
Gimmick.
Gimmick.
Well, I mean, Gimmick had its own sound chip and whatnot.
True, which we did an episode on a long time ago.
Yeah.
In a galaxy far away. So, but yeah, I like the song. It's very catchy. I still have it kind of bopping around in my head now, but man, it's just so simplistic in terms of tone. It's unfortunate, because I really think that if they doubled up the harmonies on this, it would be a really excellent classic Famicom track.
I could see that. I picked it partly because of how simple it is. It's very minimalist. You've really only got that main melody and then the bass line.
Yeah.
The bass line, even though it doesn't really do a whole lot, I really dug that bass line. Like it just, I didn't feel.
It was not buzzy though.
It was definitely not buzzy.
No.
But it was still good enough for me.
Yeah.
But I didn't feel that the track was lacking per se. Like, could it have been zhuzhed up and improved?
Zhuzhed up?
Yeah, zhuzhed up.
What is zhuzhed up?
You've never heard the word zhuzh?
Zhuzh is not a word, is it? What does zhuzh mean? How do you spell that? Like J-J-J-U?
Z-H-U...
Z?
Yeah, Z-H is the zh sound.
Zhuzh?
Yeah, Z-H-U-Z-H. Zhuzh. Make something more stylish, lively, or attractive.
That's a real word?
It's a word I've been using since I was a kid.
Wow.
I learned it from my family.
Okay, well, you are the Zhuzh family then.
I guess.
Yeah.
It was my mother's maiden name. Anyway, yeah, it could have done more. They could have done more with it, but for what they did at the time, like you said, it was memorable. I feel like if they had done a lot more with it, like if there had been more kind of going on in this track, it might have muddled it a little bit, and I might not have the melodies as clear in my head as I do right now. But yeah, I would love to hear like a remix of this track and see what people do to kind of like punch it up a notch. But I really enjoyed the melody. I thought it was a really catchy tune overall. I've not played this game. Obviously, I don't own a Famicom or any import games that I can think of. But I do know a bit about Z-Gundam because it was the sequel series to Mobile Suit Gundam. I watched it a handful of years ago. It is followed up by Double Z-Gundam, which I started and didn't finish.
Okay.
And it's actually a pretty dark story. In fact, I was reading some stuff about it recently. I remember it was pretty dark. It was a little hard to get through at times, and that's actually the reason that I started the next series, Double Zeta, and got a couple episodes in and just kind of stopped. Not because Double Zeta was dark, but because I still had this other show on my palette that was kind of bringing me down.
Oh.
But it was so dark, in fact, that the follow-up series to that, Double Zeta, was purposefully made more lighthearted just to kind of like, well, I'm trying to think of that thing from the Sims. Kids, can you lighten up a little?
Okay.
So, yeah, a Gundam show, big robots, kids with semi-psychic powers. This one is, like I said, it's a bit dark just because the main character goes through a lot. Like there's a mental breakdown. There is, I believe there are a few attempts at suicide. It goes to some pretty crazy places.
Wow.
But I mean, the Gundam series, it's not as much about child soldiers as some other animes out there, but the main characters are kind of children. Like they're not like 5 or 10. They're, in their, teens or, their older teens. But I mean, I was a teenager and I remember how hard that was.
Is it like Degrassi meets mech battles?
No. I mean, it's very, very definitively set in the military anime type things. Like it's very much like, robots fighting in space, but like there are militaristic robots. It's two armies fighting against each other, and then you get your main characters on both sides. They really don't tend to vilify one side over the other. They vilify characters and actions more than anything, because the idea is like, it's not a matter of like, the good guys versus the bad guys. There are good guys and bad guys on both sides.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I'm a little shocked that the composer's name is Neil.
Yeah, yeah. I had the same reaction when I found that out, and I looked when I looked him up. I mean, he's just a white guy. Like he's not Asian. Like the last name's Sedaka. I was like, maybe it's a Japanese family, and they just gave their child the name Neil. No, like this is some white guy.
Wow, that's so strange.
It is really weird.
Yeah.
He only has a handful of audio credits. He did this game in 1986. In 1997, he did another Mobile Suit Zeta Gundam game called Kidou Senshi Zeta Gundam Zenpen Zeta no Kodo, Kohen Sora no Kakeru. Those were both in 1997 on the Sega Saturn. And then is credited in 2007 on a game called Karaoke Revolution Presents American Idol. Specifically, he wrote the song Love Will Keep Us Together.
His songs were originally from the show then. So in 1985, he composed songs that were adapted for Mobile Suit Zeta Gundam. And these included 2 opening themes, according to this, Zeta Toki wo Kote, which is based on Sedaka's Better Days Are Coming, and Mizu no Hoshi e Ai wo Komete, which is originally in English for Us to Decide. The English version was never recorded.
Oh.
So, yeah. And due to copyright restrictions, the songs were replaced for the North American DVD.
Oh.
So maybe that's the reason why you aren't familiar with it? Because the songs were replaced?
Maybe. I
Interesting.
I'm trying to remember if I watched the show in English or Japanese, but I think I actually watched it in English because I have no attachment to the Japanese version of the show because I never watched it when I was younger.
So in English, the track is called For Us to Decide.
Oh.
Yeah, that Mizu no Hoshi e Ai wo Komete.
Okay.
Right. Which is
Interesting.
right there. Yeah, so.
Wow. Learned something new.
I'm just saying.
It's an educational podcast.
It is. All right, so you got first pick.
I did.
So what do you got coming up next?
All right. So most of my picks in this episode are generally around things that I played, watched, had some kind of interaction with over the last so many years. The intro track, obviously, because of my love of Gundam. This next track is from a game that I played a bunch over the last few years, specifically the expansion that came out in 2024. It's going to be from Destiny 2, The Final Shape. It came out in the PlayStation 5, 4, the Xbox stuff, the PC in 2024. The track is called Cusp of Finality, and the composers on this are Rotem Moav, Skye Lewin, Michael Salvatori, Josh Mosser, and Michael Sechrist. Welcome back. That was the first track of this special Free Picks episode. That was from Destiny 2, The Final Shape. That was Cusp of Finality was the track. That came out last year in 2024 on the major systems, PlayStation, Xbox, and PC. And the composers we'll talk about in a bit are Rotem Moav, Skye Lewin, Michael Salvatori, Josh Mosser, and Michael Sechrist.
Cool.
Or Sechrist. I'm not quite sure how to pronounce it, so you get them both.
Yeah.
Yeah. So before anything else, what did you think of the song?
Very bombastic, very booming. The drums sounded like padded in some way.
Because it felt almost tribal.
Yeah.
On how the drum specifically sounded. But yeah, they didn't ring out. They were,
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was kind of neat. That really caught my ear. But just very movie soundtrack esque.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's fair. I mean, I'd written down a lot of the same things like bombastic and whatnot. I really enjoy the low brass, the low brass horns that come in the middle there. I kind of feel that it adds like a weight or gravitas to the track. I also may be somewhat partial to low brass as I played low brass in high school, but that's neither here nor there. Yeah, the track itself is one that I've heard a bunch of times in the game. It happens in one particular area, which we'll talk about in a second, but it's a very major point of the game. It's basically the end of that expansion, which is actually the end of like a 10-year story arc that they started in Destiny 1 and then concluded last year in this expansion of the game.
Oh wow.
It's still going on. It's like the game, there's still story to tell. Like the game is not done, but like they called it the saga of light and darkness. And this was the culmination of all that. So like, you know, your big bad, literally universe-ending villain is doing the thing that he wants to do. It's why the track is called the Cusp of Finality. The expansion is called the Final Shape because that's what this big villain, known only as the Witness, is trying to implement his final shape on the universe, which is basically like freezing everything in a particular form to kind of end all suffering and end all life, basically, so that there's nothing in the universe to cause or suffer under any kind of suffering. But it's a very twisted, you know, way of doing things because there's no consent. It's just like, I don't like something that happened to me, and I don't like pain, and therefore I'm going to end the universe with this power that I've gathered by doing all these crazy things. And so, you know, the story leads you up to this this one point where you learn how you can actually hurt this thing, because it's like, it's not just a regular being, it's practically a god, but it's actually like the coagulation or culmination of like an entire race of beings that have like merged themselves in their minds and created this one thing called the Witness. And it's just trying to do this crazy stuff.
So it's Legion and Lavos combined.
Yeah, that's a good comparison.
Okay.
But so like you learn at the end of the main story, like you learn what you can do to actually hurt this thing, and then that opens up a thing called a raid, which is a like the game is playable single player, but there are multiplayer elements, and like raids require 6 people to go through them, and they're very difficult. So like you go.
So there's a single mode story player.
Single mode story player.
Sorry.
I thought you did that on purpose, and I just wanted to verify.
So there's a story mode in single player?
Yes.
Okay.
So the game itself is always online. People can't just randomly join you. Like you can have your friends join you, you can join your friends, or you can just play solo. But when you get to the end of the main story point, you know, it opens up this raid, and it's just like the raid is the lead up to the very end. And so like the very last chapter of the story was actually locked for the first week or two of the game until somebody, you know, some team of 6 players actually went through this whole raid, which leads you through like the Witness's lair and whatnot, and you get up to him, and then you start, you know, using what you learned to take him down, and then that unlocks the very last part of the story, which is actually 12-person activity, which they had never done before. Like the most was these raids that they create for 6 players, and the 12-person activity, it doesn't require you to know 11 other people. You just start it, and it puts you into a thing with 12 other people, and you're just kind of like attacking and going after this guy. And, you know, there's certain patterns to things. You have to trigger certain things. It's very intense, and this is the song that plays during that 12-man activity. Having played it a number of times, you know, myself, and then helping other friends out, and you can repeat it over and over. You don't really get anything special out of doing it. I mean, you get items, and the items are randomized. You don't do it to like get the ultimate item or anything. Like you do it to either like grind for certain things, or you want to help your friends get through it. But it's like I said, it is very epic. There's a lot of stuff going on. Like there's a whole lead up and a bunch of cutscenes that are very, I don't know that I'd say emotional, but they are very powerful. One of my favorite tropes in media is the bad guys and the good guys have to team up because there's a worse guy. So it's, you know, it's you and all of, you know, the characters that are the main protagonists of the stories. And then, certain villains come in and they're just like, yeah, no, we live in the universe too and don't want it to end, so we're going to help you stop this guy. And then after that, we'll probably go back to kicking each other's butts.
Okay, then.
And it's a trope that I enjoy very much.
This is a very Justin pick.
I would agree. I mean, Destiny 2 has been like my primary game for the last 2 or 3 years.
Okay.
Since like mid-pandemic, like I picked it up and just went hard into it. And then when this expansion came out, I was happy to get through it, to finish it. My brother actually helped me run that raid that I mentioned. And like, there are certain things you can do in the game that unlock certain things in real life. So like, I have a jacket that I got for doing, like, you can only buy the jacket if you did the raid within a certain time. And I enjoy those things too. It's one of the things that kind of kept me in the game. But after we got through all that, I was just like, all right, I'm satisfied. I'm going to put this game down and actually go play other things. And then my friend Matt pulled me back in, but I'm only playing it like a couple times a week now, and Monster Hunter just came out, and so my life has now been taken over by that game. But it felt good to be able to get to a point in a game where I was just like, I am satisfied. Like, is there more stuff going to come out for this game? Yes, it's an online service game. It's never going to end until the player base dissolves. But I am satisfied with what I've done in the game. I've accomplished things. I have like real world knickknacks that I can point to and go like, I got this because I did a thing in a game. And I was just like happy enough to be like, I can move on with my gaming career and go to something else. So that's that. Do you have any games that were ever like that, where you just like went hard into a game for a long time and then got to a point where you're like, I'm satisfied. I've done what I wanted to accomplish in this game?
I played a ton of Smash Brothers Melee, specifically in college.
But with a purpose, or just for fun?
Just for fun, just to play.
Yeah.
If you're talking about, like, I think Gravity Rush.
Oh, yeah. I remember you were trying to get, like, a lot of, like, the achievements and stuff.
Yeah, I spent a ton of time with... I love that game.
Yeah,
I spent a ton of time with Gravity Rush, the first one. The second one I tried to get into, and I did really like it, but I was mostly playing it with a clock. Like a timer, like a countdown clock on my back, because I was trying to unlock as much stuff as possible before the servers closed.
Shut down. Yeah, I remember that.
So I was like unlocking stuff left and right, doing the best I could, and then I just stopped.
Yeah. Well, you stopped when they shut the servers down, right?
I did. Yeah.
You went until you couldn't.
Until I couldn't do it anymore, and I was satisfied with this stuff that I had unlocked, because some of it involved you needing to post scores or post something online in order to get certain costumes and stuff like that. I really wish that they would just like lump all those costumes together and release them as like a free digital download, because it's just not fair to the people that wanted to experience the entire game and wanted to unlock everything, and they can't because Sony preemptively shut the servers down for unknown reasons. It's a shame. See, that was a game that I remember going really hard on. Saints Row 3 and 4.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I love the Saints Row 3 and 4 games. Both of those were excellent. I've played through them each twice, and they're not short games. They're pretty long. So, yeah, I've probably sunk over 200 hours in Saints Row.
Dang.
3 and 4, yeah, specifically 4. Saints Row 3, I think I just played through twice and was just like, okay. I love it, man. The character creation's great. The music's great. I mean, we played tracks from it on, I think, Mike's Picks, my episode that I did.
Yeah.
Back in, like, episode 23 or something like that. So, yeah. I don't really like this music in the sense that, like, I would listen to it outside of the game.
Right.
If I was playing the game, that of course I would listen to it, but this is not something I would download or go to listen to enjoy. It's kind of like generic background music to me in terms of a video game.
Yeah,
you know,
I kind of get that, especially if you don't have any familiarity with the game.
Right.
I mean, you can kind of say that about a lot of video game music. I think more modern video game music, a lot more when you get to the chiptune stuff, I feel like that doesn't apply, because chiptune has a specific like feel to it, and sometimes you can actually kind of say like, oh, this feels like it's from Mario Brothers or this or that. And in modern times, a lot of the music, like you said, feels more like a movie soundtrack.
Right.
But there are a lot of tracks from the the Destiny game and its expansions where like if I hear the song, I'm like, oh, I know exactly what that is or where that plays, because either I really like the song or I really like that scene or that fight or whatever it is. And I mean, my brother and I mean, he's the one who got sort of got me back into playing it. He has like all of the soundtracks. I don't know if he bought them or if he downloaded them. I have a few, but like when I went to visit him and my mother in Florida last year, at one point we were driving around, he was playing some tracks for me and just like, oh, hey, do you remember what this is from? Or do you remember this track? But these guys.
Yeah, these guys.
So these guys, Rotem Moav, it has a few composition credits here, mostly for Destiny 2. Credited 2017 Destiny 2, Destiny 2 The Witch Queen, which is an expansion that came out in 2022, and then Black Skylands in 2021. Skye Lewin, very similar. Destiny 2 The Witch Queen, Destiny 2 Shadowkeep from the expansion from 2019. Also Destiny, the original Destiny in 2014. And in 2022, they were English ADR editors on Lupin III, Treasure of the Sorcerer King. Michael Salvatori is basically the Destiny composer. I believe he did a lot more than just that. I mean, he did Halo 4, Halo 5, Halo the Master Chief Collection, which I think is just a compilation of a bunch of the Halo games. Riven, the sequel to Myst, did sound design and live action Foley. Myth, The Fallen Lords, as well as Myth 2 Soulbringer, sound and music design. Oni in 2001, I did original music on that. That's a game that I remember playing on the Mac. That was a really interesting game. It was very like 2D cell shaded, but in a 3D world. I don't remember much else to describe it, but check that game out because I remember enjoying the heck out of it. Josh Mosser, again, Destiny 2 The Witch Queen and Shadowkeep, and the original, or the base game from 2017. Crash Bandicoot Insane Trilogy, they're credited in 2017 as an engineer. A lot of sound engineer and music and mixing. Then we go to Michael Sechrist, or Sechrist, and their audio credits are Destiny 2, Shadowkeep, Witch Queen, and that's it. They did some QA on Halo Reach and Halo 3 ODST.
Cool.
So on that note, what do we have coming up next, Mike? What's your first pick?
All right, so I am picking a game that I spent a considerable amount of time on fairly recently, over the past year. It's Final Fantasy VII Remake. This came out in the PlayStation 4 in 2020. This is Barret's theme, the Jukebox version, and it's by, the original is by Nobuo Uematsu, and we'll talk a little bit about the arranger when we come back.
All right.
All right. You're back. That was our free picks track. My first pick, Final Fantasy VII Remake. This came out on the PlayStation 4 in 2020. Came out on PC, I think, a year or two later. Barret's theme, Jukebox version, is the name of this track, and it's by Nobuo Uematsu, who did the original composition, and the arranger is Yuichi Tsuchiya.
Oh man, I mean, I love this game.
Yeah.
I remember playing it when it came out because it was, when did it come out? Was it 2020? Wow, was it 5 years old already?
It was supposed to come out March 3rd, and it got delayed because of COVID.
Yeah, I remember that.
It got delayed till, I believe, April.
Was it? Wow.
Yeah.
I remember I got it on the PS4 and I played the heck out of it. The jukebox stuff, phenomenal.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, musically, I think that's some of my favorite stuff in the game.
I agree.
The actual soundtrack is great too. Like,
it is.
I loved the really electronic battle theme that they did.
Yes.
But yeah, the jukebox just had some really quality pieces.
Yeah, they outdid themselves.
Yeah, and this one in particular, it reminds me a bit of like Led Zeppelin Unplugged.
Honky tonk, kind of.
Yeah, we got that harmonica, that acoustic guitar, the organ. I wish I could remember the tracks that it reminds me of, but there are a number of just like acoustic Led Zeppelin tracks it just really evoked that in my mind.
Yeah. I absolutely love the music in this game. I loved the original Final Fantasy VII. It's like, in my top 2 favorite RPGs of all time.
Oh wow.
This and Chrono Trigger are like my 2 favorite. I hate
Good
to
picks.
be
Good picks.
I hate to be a basic RPG guy.
I mean, they're popular for a reason, my dude. Like,
they're so good.
People can complain all they want about, those are popular. They're popular for a reason.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
They're amazing games, legit. But I really, really love what they did with the jukebox songs. And I love that each song is its own, in its own genre of music.
They're all unique. It's not just like, these are all electronic remixes.
Or techno or metal or whatever. It's like... They really diversified it up with music that you wouldn't expect. And now that I've heard it in this tone and style, I can't unhear it like this. Like, this is absolutely perfect for Barret.
Barret's theme, yeah.
Just the whole vibe and everything. So it's great. It's phenomenal. I have the vinyl too that we played on a After Dark episode a while back, and that was a great listen. I finally beat this game. It took me a year to beat. I had started it when it came out, and I just got distracted, moved on to other stuff. And this last year in 2024, I was like, I am going to sit down and beat this game. Rebirth just came out. I picked up the deluxe of Rebirth and a PlayStation 5. And then I realized, oh, wait a minute, I haven't played through Remake yet. So I was like, that's going to change. So I also downloaded the Intergrade
DLC.
The DLC, which was okay. It wasn't as good as the main game. It was fun.
It's supposed to like bridge the gap between the two, I guess.
Yeah, and that makes sense. But I just was kind of like, I kind of rushed through it a little bit. I was like, I just want to be done with this portion and move on to something else. So, great game. Really, really enjoyed my time with it. The final boss, I was kind of meh
like, you've talked about this,
Yeah, I was kind of meh on that final boss fight. But overall, just absolutely loved it. And, oh my God, dude, Tifa's just so gorgeous in this game, bro. Anyways, the main composer we're not going to talk about, Nobuo Uematsu. We've talked about him. You should know. If you don't, shame on you. How dare you? Go listen to 119 episodes worth of episodes of our show where we probably talked about Nobuo at least once on every episode.
Listen to Justin's pick. I go on and on about him.
Yes. So let's talk about Yuichi Tsuchiya instead. He started off doing music for Poppin' Music Animation Melody in 2000 on the PlayStation, and I believe that they were a Konami composer because they did stuff like Air Force Delta Storm on the Xbox, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the GameCube PS2 game.
Yeah.
I think that was on Xbox as well, and they did the sequel to it, as well as the third game, the threequel?
Yeah.
Squeakquel?
No.
They also were one of the arrangers or composers on Castlevania Dracula X Chronicles, Lunar Nights. When they did PES 2008 Pro Evolution Soccer, that was, I think, the final game that they did for Konami before they left. And in 2019, they came back as a composer on the Resident Evil 2 remake. funny enough, I was going to pick a Resident Evil 2 remake track for this episode because I also just finished that game as well. But after Remake and Intergrade, they also worked on Rebirth as an arranger. And their latest game is Death Note Killer Within, which came out in 2024. And yes, it is a Death Note anime-based game. Looks like some kind of a chess game or something. I don't know. Yeah, some kind of a weird board game. So
I didn't know they were still making Death Note stuff.
I guess, yeah. So that's it. But it looks like we are getting a call.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
On a Free Picks episode.
Yeah,
Weird.
which is strange.
Maybe not. All right, Janine, you want to go ahead and send that on over? XVGM Radio. Who is this and what can we play for you?
Hey, how you doing, man? How you been? Huh?
Okay, who is this?
Bro, you don't know who this is?
I do not recognize the voice.
Hey, this is Cocaine, huh?
Coke. How's it going?
Hey, your big buddy Cocaine. Not much, man. How you been?
I've been all right. Been doing this podcast for a few years now. I am surprised this is the first we're hearing from you.
Yeah, you know, I figured I'd call. You never come around anymore. You know, I thought you was, you were gonna get some,
You know, my best friend has kids, and it's just hard to get out these days.
you know, I feel you.
Can we play you a song, though?
Yeah, sure. You know, one of my favorite games of all time is Daytona.
It's a great racing game.
It's wild, bro.
Very, very. And I mean, the vocals are just like...
I wanna fly sky high, right?
Yes, sir. I think we can get you something good.
All right, bye-bye.
Okay,
All
then.
right. Yeah.
A friend of yours?
Sure, we'll go with that.
Okay.
I think we'll grab a track from Daytona USA 2.
Okay.
Skyscraper sequence sounds appropriate. This came out in the arcades in 1998, and the composer is none other than Takenobu Mitsuyoshi. And you're back. That is Daytona USA 2 Battle on the Edge, the arcade game from 1998. Skyscraper Sequence was the tongue-twisting name of that track, and it was composed by Takenobu Mitsuyoshi, as well as Fumio Ito, with Dennis St. James on vocals.
Skyscraper Sequence. Wow, that is tough to say.
Right?
Skyscraper Sequence. Wow.
Skyscraper Sequence, Skyscraper Sequence,
Skyscraper
Sequence.
Squeakquence. The squeakquel. Skyscraper Sequence, the squeakquel. Squeakquel. The squeakquence squeakquel.
Oh man,
yes.
that's too much.
Yeah,
too much squeaking.
Yeah.
I also want to give credit to Electric Boogaloo from our Discord for posting this in the listener request section.
Yes.
Had you not done that, I would not have had easy access to a song to play for my good friend Coke Ayin.
Yes, that's true. Good old cocaine. This was awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you, Electric Boogaloo, for posting this. It was great. And by the way, anybody that wants to post, feel free. We will give you credit if we pick any of your tracks.
Yeah, that's actually the original intention for the listener requests channel, and it's kind of fallen out of use by people. I don't know if it's because we haven't actually picked anything out of there, or if people just haven't really thought of things to put in there. I know a lot of people share VGM in the Share VGM channel.
Right, in the Discord,
But yeah, if there is anything that you're like, oh man, I'd love for them to play this on the show at some point, but I don't want to be, I don't want to become a patron for whatever reason.
Yeah, post it there. Yeah, we may end up playing it just like we did today.
We may not ask for you to record a call in, but I mean, if we like the song, we're gonna throw it in, and then we'll just be like, hey, I know this song because this person showed it to us.
Yeah, yeah. Awesome. This was great. I loved everything about this.
Yeah, so fun. I was trying to find the lyrics and I couldn't, but like it's very clearly like an intense song about like racing and everything else. I'm glad that you found the vocalist, because at first I thought it was somebody who was Japanese singing in English, and then the more I listened, I was like, I don't hear like the accent or anything. Like this actually sounds like an English native speaker.
Right.
And then listening more, I'm like, I don't hear any of the weird word choices or like the quote unquote English or anything like that. Like this sounds like just a legit English vocalist doing it up, and it is.
Yeah, it's funny because I was like, wow, this sounds kind of like the Sonic Adventure guy. The singer on Sonic Adventure or Sonic Adventure 2.
Sound?
Tony Harnell, I think, was the voice, the vocalist for the band Crush 40.
Crush 40, yeah.
Crush 40, yeah. So, but yeah, I really like his vocals. Dennis St. James really brought a lot of like fiery energy to this track.
Yeah.
And it's just like, it's so high energy without being like sugary sweet.
Yeah,
which I love. There's a rawness to this track that I appreciate, so I loved it. It was great. Yeah,
something about it. Like, so for one, there's that awesome guitar solo in the middle.
Yes.
That you don't often get guitar solos in VGM, so that was fun.
Yeah.
But the lyrics and the melody felt kind of very 80s to me, but the instrumentation felt very 90s.
Yeah.
Which I love. Like it's not quite. Like, it's definitely not like synth pop or anything. Like, it's not. I don't think it's trying to be from the 80s, but there's this thing that I often find with like Japanese music where Japanese music that came out in the 90s often felt like American music from the 80s, like a decade behind.
Yeah, absolutely.
And this is a weird, really cool blending of the two. Like, it felt like something almost out of the 80s, but like the instrumentation, the sounds they were using, and like the
and even the production
and
too.
the production, yes. Felt very 90s.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. That you like literally took the words out of my mouth on this one. Yeah, for legit. Like, I was going to mention that.
Oh, you were?
Yeah, I was.
That's funny.
Yeah. So we are in sync.
Yeah, it's so good. So again, thank you, Electric Boogaloo, for recommending this one.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I mean, the Daytona soundtracks are fun to begin with, but this is like unironic. Like, I would absolutely listen to this in my car driving around.
Yeah, I mean, I love the first Daytona soundtrack. It's so goofy and fun.
Daytona!
And it's just so hilariously amazing. And I love the energy that Takenobu Mitsuyoshi brings with his vocals. And hearing this, I really didn't know any music from Daytona 2.
Oh, no?
Yeah, I didn't know anything. So I'm going to definitely have to check this soundtrack out. Because if there's other tracks on there that sound like this, it's going to be a win for me.
Yeah, agreed. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Other than that, the game, not a whole lot to really talk about. It's an arcade racer. The Daytona games were pretty good arcade racers. I know
Shame this never got a port.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know if I played Daytona USA 2. I know I definitely played 1 in arcades when I was younger. Probably played 2 and didn't realize it because I never really paid a lot of attention to the racing games. I was more into other things, but we would sometimes just jump into a racing game if there were like 4 seats and nobody was in there. So like me and 3 of my friends were like, oh, let's just have a race. These composers, Takenobu, Mitsuyoshi, I know we've talked about them before. Very, very long resume, so I'm just going to pick a couple of things here. As far as music goes, music composition, one of the earlier ones that I see here is Virtua Racing in 1992. It was an arcade game. We've got right in the middle, we'll do sound director and composer on Let's Go Jungle, Lost on the Island of Spice in 2006, another arcade game. And most recently, they've been doing arrangements for Virtua Fighter 5 REVO. That's a 2025 release on Windows and probably other things.
Yeah. I'm not sure if that's out yet. It might be. It's basically a re-release of 5.
Right. I was going to say, this says it was released in January. So.
Oh, okay. So it just came out.
Yeah. So
cool.
Very, very cool. Fumio Ito, similarly long resume here. Their first music composition credit that I see is Virtua Fighter 3 in 1996. Very quickly after that, they did Behind ... Enemy Lines in 1997. And then we'll pick, let's see, something from the middle here. Outrigger in 2001. That was a Dreamcast game. They did sound design, so let's actually go with Aero Elite Combat Academy in 2002. They were composer. And they are also listed as sound designer on Virtua Fighter 5 REVO. So we'll say in 2023 they did Sonic Superstars composition.
Oh, neat. Oh, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
And then we've got this other guy here, Dennis St. James. They did tracks in the Burning Ranger soundtrack, or they did some vocals in the Burning Ranger soundtrack, I should say. Daytona USA 2, in both 1998. 99, they did Sega Racing Best, and We Are Burning Rangers. 2005, they did Sega Saturn History Vocal Collection, so I'm guessing that is...
Compilation CD.
A compilation CD.
Yeah, all those credits that are listed there are all from like the video games like soundtrack database.
Or
it's
compilations.
So in other words, they did 2 games.
Yeah. So I see Burning Rangers repeated a few times.
Yeah.
So the Sega Saturn 30th Anniversary album, 2024. That's cool.
And Takenobu Mitsuyoshi also worked on Burning Rangers as well.
Right.
Yeah. So...
Excellent.
Yeah.
All right. What's coming up next here?
All right. So my second pick is from Capcom Generation Dai 2. I'm gonna butcher this. I think it's Show. Dai 2 Show, and then it's Makai to Kishi. This came out on the Saturn and PlayStation 1 in 1998. It is a Ghouls and Ghosts / Ghosts and Goblins collection.
Okay.
And the track we're going to be playing is an arranged version called ARR08. At least that's the file name. And it's from Ghoul's Stomach from Super Ghouls and Ghosts. And it's originally composed by Mary Yamaguchi with an unknown arranger. man, that was probably my favorite track from Super Ghouls and Ghosts. That was the arranged version of Ghoul's Stomach by Mary Yamaguchi for the original composition with an unknown arranger, and that was released on the Capcom Generation Dai-to-Show Makai to Kishi game collection. Came out on the Saturn and the PlayStation 1 around 1998. So
very cool, very spooky.
It could have fit on a Halloween episode. That we would do, but I wanted to pick it mostly because I was playing the game and selling it, and I was mostly because the reason why I bought this game, this collection for the Saturn, Japan exclusive, of course, but Capcom released a bunch of different collections called the Capcom Generation Collection. It was kind of like the Capcom Classics Collection's predecessors. So it was just like they would pick a series of games like, I don't know, Street Fighter or, Ghouls and Ghosts or whatever. And then they would release a bunch of games on disc and made them more accessible, basically re-releasing them. In a lot of ways, they made them better than the original releases. The Super NES version of Super Ghouls and Ghosts is plagued by horrible slowdown. And this version gets rid of that slowdown, and it's available on every other Capcom collection going forward. So since I had the Capcom collection that it was on already, and I have the original Super NES cart from me growing up, I have that too. In addition to the Classics collection having the other games on this collection, I was like, why do I own this again? And then I realized, oh, right, it's because I thought when I originally bought it, I had heard that there were arranged versions of the songs on the soundtrack. And so I thought that you could hear those while playing the game. You can't. They are only unlockable or available to listen to in the menu.
The gallery, yeah.
Right. So it was a major bummer because, man, this is such a revamped, better version of Ghoul Stomach. Not that I dislike the original. This one just flows so much better, and the percussion on it is excellent. They added a lot of really cool instruments that you don't hear too often in music like this. I think there's it's a percussion scraper. I think it's called a guero, I think. It's that sound. It's very popular in Latin music. They use it a lot there. I think there were some castanets too in there too. The other ones that make the
castanets are the clicky fingerings.
There were some of those in there too. So those really stood out to me as a percussion guy. But in addition to that, I love how this track, the way they looped it, it's less stuttery than it is in the original. Because in the original, you get these very you get that da 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 da. I love that part. That's my favorite part of the track. And then it kind of da na 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 na, and then it's got to dive back down into and so on the Super NES, it's a very stark contrast from the end of the track to the beginning of the track, and they do a good job. But I think that this version flows so much better and smoother into the transition back into the beginning of the loop. Personally, there's also a lot of really, really great cymbal work there. There's some crescendos that kind of come in that really kind of amped up towards the end of the song. So I loved it. It's a great track that reminds me of the pain and suffering that I have felt over the years playing my favorite Ghouls and Ghosts game. So
fair. Yeah.
Now, do you call the series Ghosts and Goblins, or do you call it Ghouls and Ghosts? Because I've always called it Ghouls and Ghosts.
I don't have enough interaction with the series to really fall one way or the other.
It is not a Justin series.
Yeah, I've played it. I'm trying to remember. I think I've really never played the SNES one.
Yeah,
I've in the arcade. I know that there was one on the NES, but that's
Ghosts and Goblins.
That's Ghosts and Goblins. Yeah. So I don't really remember playing that. But so I guess I know it more as Ghouls and Ghosts.
Okay.
But I do remember years and years ago learning Ghosts and Goblins, Ghouls and Ghosts. It's all the same thing. It's just which game on which system. I think most of my memories of that game aren't even me playing it. It's watching on Nick Arcade people be terrible at it.
Yeah. People were really awful at it.
I mean, I feel like people were awful at almost everything on that show.
True, but especially Ghouls and Ghosts.
Because it's a very unforgiving game.
It is. It is a brutally difficult game. I have beaten it once through, and I've never beaten it the second time through. Because here's the thing about the game. After you beat Super Ghouls and Ghosts, the game is like, cool, now do it again with the Goddess Bracelet. There's this thing that you can get called the Goddess Bracelet you can unlock, and that you have to use that in order to beat the final boss.
Oh.
Yeah. And it is not easy to do. So I've never gone back and tried to beat it for a second time. I've tried, and I think around level 5, the second time around, I kind of peter out. Maybe level 3, 4. I think 5 is the farthest I've made it on a second playthrough. But I love the game. It's great. It's so much fun. It is one of those games where if you get hit...
Yeah, it's all... Like, you might as well just end it.
It's so difficult to crawl back from the beginning of it. Unfortunately, though, if you're so used to the slowdown like me, it can get a little tricky, especially in the level where you're fighting the giant slime worm thing that kind of curls up and hits you, because a lot of the times you're relying on that slowdown to be able to dodge the attacks, and now they're like super fast in the re-released version. So
yeah. It's like my issue with Gradius 3. Like playing it without any slowdown is way harder for me, because I'm like, oh no, I need the slowdown in this bubble level, because it allows me to actually see everything on screen and not get hit.
When I was a kid, and I think I've talked about this before, I used to think that slowdown was a special effect.
Yeah.
Like I thought that it was the developers
like
trying to be like, like bullet time. I always thought that. Oh man, Mary Yamaguchi is a Capcom composer through and through. Worked on some of their greatest games, stuff like UN Squadron, Super Ghouls and Ghosts, Magical Quest starring Mickey Mouse, Mega Man 5. I mean, they can't all be gems. Breath of Fire Game Boy Advance port, Final Fight 2. Their latest game that they released music for was Mega Man 10, where they were one of the many composers on that. And then I don't know who arranged this track, but maybe it was her, but they did a great job.
Nice.
Yeah. All right, what do you got?
All right, next up, I've got another game that I've been playing for a long time, but unlike Destiny 2, this is not an online service game. It's just I've been playing it in very small increments over the years. This is Secret of Evermore, the 1995 SNES game. The track we'll hear is Regal Castle, and it was composed by Jeremy Soule. You're listening to XVGM Radio. All right, that was Secret of Evermore, the 1995 SNES game. The track was Regal Castle, and it was composed by Jeremy Soule.
Cool. Man, I've not played this in a long time. I didn't get very far in it. I couldn't get into it, but
yeah,
this is a cool track. I mean, it's just that Squaresoft sound font is just so ripe here. It's great, but it just reeks of Squaresoft in the best way possible.
That's fair. I agree. It's a lot of the tracks in this game, funny enough, I enjoy the game and I enjoy the music, but a lot of the tracks in this game are not what I would consider Justin tracks, only because I tend to pick and lean towards the tracks that are a lot more high energy, high impact, and stuff like that. And a lot of the music in this game is very much, I don't want to relegate it to like background music or whatnot, but it's kind of almost atmospheric. Like this track in particular is the track that plays when you're exploring a very large castle. It's setting the scene. The castle is relatively abandoned, so you've got kind of that loneliness feel, or at least what I would say feels like kind of loneliness in this track. Not quite empty, like it's not minimalist enough for me to call it an empty track. You and your dog are just running around this castle trying to, I believe, solve a puzzle at this point. I'm trying to remember, because the last session I had to play this game, I believe I went through the section where this track plays, but that was back in November. So to explain why this is a game that I've been playing over a number of years, I started playing this a while ago. I don't actually know if I started playing this for Extra Life, but that's what it's become. Is I dedicate a couple hours on, I think, Saturday. So it's kind of just become this thing where I play it every year, or I continue it every year. And I always tell myself, I'm going to, play it in between, or I'm going to play it, outside of Extra Life, if only to like level up the weapons and kind of get myself into a better place. And I never do. And then I come back, once a year on Extra Life and go, okay, I got to remember how to play this game. It's an action RPG. It's called Secret of Evermore. It's not part of the Second Desetsu series, even though, Secret of Mana and all that other stuff.
Right.
It plays somewhat similar. Like it uses certain elements from those games, like the ring menu system.
Yeah, but all of that had to be rebuilt from scratch.
Yes.
Because this is an American-made game,
yep.
And they wouldn't let the American team use their assets.
Which was so stupid, because you're all one company.
Right.
But I mean,
So
that happened a lot back in the 80s and 90s. But I mean, even with all that, the game itself came out very, very well, especially for something that was like American developed, and they were trying to do things that were done in the Secret of Mana games. They did a really good job bringing that over and kind of rebuilding that as best they could. Like you hit the button, the game stops, the ring menu comes up, and you can cycle through your items, your magic, your stats, your weapons and stuff. It's a fun game. I know I've talked about it on the show before, so I'm not gonna spend a lot of time going into what the game is about or anything like that, other than just to say, like, you are this kid literally from a town called Podunk.
Yeah.
Your dog runs into this facility and you run in after him, and then you're transported to this other place called Prehistoria, and you're trying to find your way home, and you're working your way through these, they're almost like islands, and each island is more or less designed after like a period of world history. So you've got Prehistoria, Crustacea is like the seafaring age or whatever, Nobilia, Gothica, and then Omnitopia is like the future, and your weapons and whatnot reflect the area that you're in. So like you start with like a bone sword in Prehistoria, and then you get like an iron sword and whatnot. And in Omnitopia, I believe you get, I can't remember if it's a rocket launcher or an RPG. I mean, same kind of concept either way, but you get up more or less a, modern technological weapon.
Doesn't your dog level up too, or like they change breeds or something?
Yes, so every area that you go to, the dog matches kind of like in Nobilia, I believe it's like a poodle.
Right. Yeah, I remember that.
In Prehistoria, your dog looks like a wolf, but it's always your dog. Like you recognize him instinctually, and you call him by whatever name you name your dog, and the dog's like, "Oh yeah, that's me." So
I'm amazed that you can go back to an RPG once a year.
I do have to like sit down and like force myself, like, what was I doing? Where was I?
Yeah.
So the composer on this, I said, was Jeremy Soule. A lot of credits here. The first composition credit is actually Secret of Evermore in 1995. And then they did a lot of the Harry Potter games on the Xbox, GameCube, PS2, Chamber of Secrets, Quidditch World Cup, Sorcerer's Stone, Prisoner of Azkaban, etc. I think they actually did all of them as I'm scrolling through this very long
Don't forget
list.
Pajama Sam.
I wasn't going to. What is that? Humongous Games? Freddy Fish, Pajama Sam, Putt Putt. Yeah, those are all games published by Humongous Entertainment. The only reason I know that is because Game Grumps went through a bunch of them. They did one of the Freddy Fish games, did a few of the Putt Putt games, and they did Pajama Sam.
Oh boy.
And they are very cute.
Okay.
They're very fun. They are kids like point and click adventures. They also have a bunch of credits for Minecraft PlayStation 4 edition. Their most recent credits for original theme music composed for Elder Scrolls Online Necrom in 2023. Looks like they did a bunch of the Elder Scrolls games, both Skyrim and Elder Scrolls Online expansions. So
Cool.
Nifty.
All right, we're going to turn our attention to The Return of Medusa, Rings of Medusa 2. This came out on the Amiga and the Atari ST in 1991. I believe this is the Amiga version of the track, which is the intro track by Yoshin Hippel. Oh man, always enjoy some Amiga. That was The Return of Medusa, also known as Rings of Medusa 2. And that came out on the Amiga and the Atari ST in 1991. That was the intro music by Yoshin Hippel, or Yashin. I want to say it's Yoshin Hippel.
That sounds right to me.
Yeah. So apologies if I butchered your name, Mr. Hippel. What did you think of this one?
Very nice. I've talked before about how I, in recent years have learned that I like Amiga music despite never having had the opportunity as a child to really listen to it. Commodore 64, Amiga, there's something about the chip tunes that come out of those systems that my ears just really like. I mean, the arpeggios that they're using in the beginning there, just like all that going up and down, the pitch slides and bends, I always enjoy when those are implemented and they're done well. And I mean, this is very, very chippy, which I love. Not very buzzy, again, which is okay because the rest of it really makes up for that. I don't really have a good memory of the bass line. It didn't stick with me, but the melody and just kind of like that rhythm in the arpeggios really kind of kept it driving and was super fun.
Yeah, the arpeggios are definitely the shining moment of this track for sure. I really love the build-up in this too. It's just, it really kind of builds the intro, and it's great from start to finish. I really enjoyed this one, so that's why I picked it. Honestly, I was just looking for something from the Amiga and came across this and was like, oh, this is pretty cool. I don't know too much about the game. Obviously, it's a sequel to Rings of Medusa, as it's the sequel. It's an RPG, but it's like the kind where you're like going through corridors and stuff. Like first-person perspective. There is a map. It looks really complex. So it's like, kind of like Dungeon Master type of gameplay. So there's, I guess, some strategy involved as well, where you have to trade and work with armies and stuff like that. But it doesn't seem like my type of game, so to speak. So this is more of a soundtrack delivery system.
Gotcha.
But I thought it was cool, and that's why I played it.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
It works for me. Like I said, I enjoyed the music itself.
Yeah, agreed. So not much to talk about with this one, unfortunately, so we'll move on. But Yoshin Hippel is the composer credited on this one. He has a huge list of music. From everything that I've read about this composer, he's kind of like been considered like the godfather of the Atari ST. Like he's the composer that people think of when they think of the Atari ST. So yeah, he did Realm of the Trolls in 88, Chambers of Shaolin in 89, Onslaught that same year, and then he did do the prequel Rings of Medusa as well on the Amiga in 1989. Astaroth, the Angel of Death for the Amiga. We'll go further up just because, why not? He then moved on to work on a franchise called Lethal Excess, Wings of Death 2 in 1991. Tangram in 91 as well. Turrican 2, The Final Fight, he did music and sound effects for, along with, I'm assuming, Chris Holzbeck.
Oh, yeah.
And his last game that he worked on was Mega Turrican for the Amiga in 93, where he's credited as 7 Voice Technology, maybe doing like driver work for Chris Holzbeck. I'm not entirely sure, but yeah. So that's my story and sticking to it.
Nice.
Yeah. All right, nice and quick. What do you got, though?
Yeah, so this next one is a really fun game, both for the gameplay and the music. This is Minnesota Fats Pool Legend. This is the 1995 Genesis version. The track is just called Chillin', and it was composed by Masaki Iwasaki, Taihei Seiji Momoi, Arma, and Shogo Sakai. Hey, you're back. That was Chillin' from Minnesota Fats Pool Legend, the 1995 Genesis game composed by Masaki Iwasaki, Taihei, Seiji Momoi, Arma, and Shogo Sakai.
Dare I say it, it was chillin'.
It was very chillin'. So it's a pool game, relatively simple on the Genesis. I mean, it's a top-down view. So
Yeah, this just reeks of Data East. It was funny. As soon as
yeah.
you put it on, I was like, is this Data East? Because I'm a big fan of Side Pockets soundtrack on Genesis. And
yes.
so when I heard this, I was like, oh my God, this is just right out of a Side Pocket. Sounds exactly like it.
Yeah.
Not that that's a bad thing.
So more than likely, the Genesis just had like a very bare bones story and, you know, your different challengers in billiards, whereas the Sega Saturn had these little cutscenes in between where I believe you're trying to save your pool hall because your nephew decided to try to go up against Minnesota Fats, the pool legend.
Of course.
And just got totally hustled. So you got to show him what for.
This sounds like a plot straight out of Fresh Prince of Bel-Air's, the episode. Have you seen it? The one where Uncle Phil pretends that he doesn't know how to play pool when
yes.
Will's getting hustled. That's such a good episode. It's so funny.
Yeah, I do remember that one. That's a good one.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, pretty decent pool game or billiards game. There are a couple different variations or modes to play. There's 8-ball, 9-ball, rotation, 14, 1 rack, 3-ball, cutthroat, and 1 pocket.
Cool.
But this is another game that I've watched a playthrough via Game Grumps. It was a very enjoyable game, both like, you know, watching them play, like they seem to really enjoy the game. There were certain silly things in the videos and the gameplay that they made fun of, but overall, it was a pretty solid game with pretty solid music.
Nice. Yeah, I dug this.
Yeah. And I mean, as far as the track itself goes, I thought it was very boppy. I did play another track from this game, not on our podcast, but over on Rhythm and Pixels. Back in January 22nd, they had their episode 38-3, 3-course meal with XVGM radio. So if you haven't, go check out Rhythm and Pixels. Check out that episode. Mike and I are on it. It was a lot of fun. The chat episode that was just before that came out this January, was a lot of fun, although there's no music. It's just us having fun and talking about video games and real monsters and all sorts of other weird stuff.
Right.
But yeah, we played a different track on that episode, and it's just a good soundtrack, all in all. The composers on it, there are 2 that I don't have any credits for. They were listed, but I can't find anything else about them, and that's Taihei and Arma. But the others, Masaki Iwasaki started out with composition on Heracles no Aiko Ugo Kidashita Kamigami. That was a 1992 Game Boy game. They did music and arrangement on that one. Oh, they also did music and sound effects on Chelnov, Atomic Runner in 1992 on the Genesis.
Great soundtrack.
Yeah. I don't know how I overlooked that one in the list, but that is a fun one.
Yeah.
A lot of sound design, sound effects, and voice editing, actually. But Street Slam in 1995 was likely their most recent music composition credit. Oh, nope. Super Smash Bros. Brawl in 2008 on the Wii. They have music and sound, and their most recent credit is for sound creator on Windjammers in 2018 on the Switch.
Cool.
Seiji Momoi started with music in Captain America and the Avengers in 1991 on the NES, and just has a couple other credits here. Idol Project on the PC 98 in 1994, Suikoden Tendo 108 Sei, 1997 on Windows. Yeah, I guess that's not the game that I was thinking of. Their last credit here is Super Smash Bros. Brawl in 2008 for music arrangement, and then Shogo Sakai.
Definitely talked about him before.
Yeah, I was just going to say, like, there are a ton of credits here, and I know that we've talked about them. Tante Jinguji Saburo Toki no Sugiyuki Mama ni, which is a 1990 NES game. A lot of their other stuff here is just sound. Super Smash Bros. Melee in 2001 there, music composition credited, and then their most recent thing that says music composition, they did lead music composition in Kirby and the Rainbow Curse in 2015. And then more recently, 2022's Kirby's Dream Buffet, they're listed for sound.
Cool. Oh, man. All right. Well, it looks like we're getting a phone call on the caller hotline. Let's go ahead and take that call. Janine, pass that through to us. XVGM Radio, who is this, and what can we do for you?
I am Groot.
Oh, hey, it's Groot from Guardians of the Galaxy. Hey, Groot.
Hey, how's it going?
I am Groot.
That you are. Can anybody translate? Janine, can you translate?
This may or may not surprise you, but I do speak Groot.
Oh, do
among
you?
Other things.
Oh, interesting.
So, let me take another look because I wasn't paying attention. I thought you instinctively knew Groot as well.
No, I did not.
Hey, Groot, what do you want to hear?
I am Groot.
Oh, well, I mean, isn't that a little cliche?
I'm Groot.
Okay, I get it. He's saying he wants to hear something from, get this, Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy.
Oh, okay. We could do that. Did you greet him with the universal greeting? Ba weep grana weep ninibong.
I am Groot.
I'm assuming he said the same thing back.
Yeah, it's probably best that you think that.
Oh, okay then. I must have offended him. I'm sorry, Groot.
No, I think he has other things on his mind. Groot, give our best to the Guardians, and you have a good day.
I am Groot.
Okay then. All right.
Cool.
Well, Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy is the game. Xbox One, PlayStation 4, and PC is the systems it released on in 2021. Space Riders with No Name is the name of the track. Now, Richard Jakes did the main game music. This is the in-game band called Star-Lord, and the composers on that are Steve Szepkowski and Johan Bodralt.
Take you to
That was Guardians of the Galaxy, or Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy. Xbox One, PlayStation 4, and PC are the systems of release. 2021 was the year of release. That was Space Riders with No Name, and the main game music was composed by Richard Jakes. This, however, was done by Star-Lord, which is the fictitious fake band in the game that you can hear music by. Steve Zizapowski and Johann Bojolt are the composers for Star-Lord. Again, I apologize if I butchered your names. So, have you played this game, first off?
I have not.
Oh, okay. It's really great. It's a single-player action adventure where you're basically playing as Guardians of the Galaxy. It's a lot of fun. It has all the tried-and-true tropes of the movies in terms of the rockin' soundtracks, the humor, and all the voices are not provided by the cast of the movies,
right,
but they do a great job kind of hearkening to those actors, those original actors.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I thought that overall the game was... I haven't finished it, maybe 2 missions in, but it's a lot of fun. Really underrated, kind of action game. So if you like action games, you'll dig it. So it's really cool.
Nice.
Yeah. It controls well. Musically, a lot of the music is like the more like traditional kind of style.
Oh, it's not like thrashy like this?
No, this is like specific to music that you can hear. I think it's like kind of like a tape player sort of thing where you can hear the music when you're like walking around Star-Lord's room, if I recall. I may be wrong about that, but yeah, I seem to remember being in Star-Lord's room and listening to Star-Lord. My only complaint is they did a great job with hearkening back to like the traditional 80s like heavy metal, but there's parts where they tried to do like a chorus kind of sound and it's very flat sounding, where like they had kind of like the shouting kind of elements that a lot of 80s metal had, no regrets, that.
Yeah.
And so you'd hear like a bunch of different voices all kind of shouting in the background, giving it like a chorus kind of effect. And that's missing here. It's just the singer doing it. There's another part where they kind of did it as well, but again, it's not very well pronounced. Like it doesn't sound like it should. I don't know if it's like a production error or something, but like that was the only complaint that I had that was missing from the track to make it truly feel like an 80s track. But the guitar solo was awesome. Drums were kicking. Great production overall. It's just a really fun, like traditional heavy metal track.
Yeah. It reminded me a bit of some stuff that I enjoy by Metallica. I'm sure there's a lot of other influence there, maybe some Iron Maiden.
Maybe something more like White Lion, in terms of like 80s metal. So yeah, it's kind of similar to that sort of stuff.
Fair enough. Yeah, I defer to you on that because, while I did enjoy some of that music during that time, you are much more on top of that genre than I am.
Yeah, I've been listening to a ton of thrash metal lately, and so this really kind of hit a sweet spot for me. Even though this isn't thrash, it was still, fun to hear.
Yeah. Nice.
So I don't have much to talk about in terms of the game. Otherwise, it's just a lot of fun. So if you like the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, this is not the Guardians of the Galaxy Telltale game.
I was going to say, I feel like we've talked about this before.
Yeah.
I mean, so that much I recognized. But there is a Telltale game for Guardians of the Galaxy. The Telltale game is based off the movies, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
The version of the characters in that game,
yes,
I think, are the movie characters.
Yes,
whereas in
correct.
this one, it has the movie feel, but I feel like the characters in this game are more based off of their original comic concepts than the movie concepts.
Maybe. I've never read any Guardians of the Galaxy comics, so I wouldn't know. We'll talk a little bit about the composers. So Richard Jakes, I'm not really going to dive too deep into because we've actually played stuff from him before. He's primarily like a Sega composer, initially starting out, doing a lot of cool work for Sega. But specifically, since these are the guys that actually composed the music for Star-Lord, the fictitious band, the credits for Steve are numerous, starting off with Bratz on the PlayStation in 2002. Disney's Cinderella Magical Dreams for the Game Boy Advance did actually quite a bit of Game Boy Advance work with stuff like Winx Club, VeggieTales, Larry Boy and the Bad Apple, Latest game was all the work on Guardians of the Galaxy. Yeah. And then Johann started off with Disney's Chicken Little Ace in Action on the Nintendo DS in 2006. Worked on some other licensed games for stuff like Iron Man, Wet, which had a great licensed soundtrack, but also the original music was pretty good too. Deus Ex Human Revolution, just like all the Deus Ex games. And then again, finally, this game, latest game that they worked on was Unknown 9 Awakening in 2024, which was a PS5 game.
Nice.
Yeah. So thanks for that one, Groot. Let's move into your final pick.
All right, my final pick, I'm bringing it back around to a game based off an anime, and that is my connection to this one. Cyber City Odeo 808, Kimono no Zokusei. This is a PC Engine game. I keep seeing it listed as TurboGrafx 16, but didn't come out in America, so PC Engine. Came out in 1991. The track is called Power Source, and it was composed by Keiichi Yamamoto, Atsuhiro Motoyama, Miyuki Takagi, and Atsushi Yamaji. Hey there, hi there, ho there. That was Power Source from Cyber City Odeo 808 Kimono no Zokusei. I've also seen it called Kimono no Alignment, so not sure what the deal is there, but either way, I've seen it both ways. It was a PC Engine game that came out in 1991, composed by Keiichi Yamamoto, Atsuhiro Motoyama, Miyuki Takagi, and Atsushi Yamaji.
Nice.
Interesting track overall. I'm not familiar with the game. Obviously, I never owned a PC Engine, and this is an import only, so I never really got to do anything with that. But the anime that it's based off of is, that's an 80s anime, and it's pretty dark from what I remember. Have you seen Cyber City Odeo?
I've not, but this looks dope.
Yeah.
This absolutely looks like something I would watch.
That's why I asked, because I feel like it's something you absolutely would have watched on an Anime Mondays on your Discord server.
Oh, yeah. I'm going to add it right after this episode.
It's weird. Like a lot of those, cyberpunk, post-apocalyptic anime, from the 80s. It's set in like a post-apocalyptic kind of future. The year is 2808. Computerized crime is like super common and whatnot. People, get arrested and thrown in jail. And the police have a habit of using criminals to fight other criminals. So like they'll pull someone out and say, we'll reduce your sentence if you help us catch this guy or whatnot. So in the game, you play as the same guy who's the main character from the anime, Shinsuke Sengoku. In fact, the guys you're going after in the game are also from the anime. So you're playing through a section of the anime or the entire anime.
Oh, okay.
So you're trying to hunt down your companions. There's a blind Xboxer and hacker who's named Gogol, and then there's another effeminate character named Benton. Not Ben 10, although it's spelled the same way, but yeah, Benton. And so the deal is he's trying to get his prison sentence lowered by catching his ex-gang members. From what I see, the game itself contains, first-person screens, like kind of a traditional Japanese-style like menu-based, like verb-object interaction type stuff. So not really something you could play without some kind of a translation. And then there's a lot of like third-person exploration as you're trying to do like these top-down searches, like looking for clues, looking for items, trying to find your ex-compatriots. No puzzles. It's not like a puzzle game or anything. It's just kind of like action and whatever you would call the like verb object interaction stuff. It's not a visual novel.
Kind of reminds me a little bit of Snatcher in a way.
Okay, yeah. Looks neat. Again, the anime itself, not an anime for kids. It's very violent. Like if you're familiar with dark, gritty anime from the 80s, Vampire Hunter D, Akira, stuff like that, it's just like that.
Along the same lines,
adult animation. The track itself, the opening always reminds me of The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. It's almost like that doo-doo-doo-doo-doo, wah, 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 which is kind of accurate to what's going on in the game. There's standoffs and showdowns and stuff like that. There's also a bit in there that reminds me of Super Dodgeball music. Like there's just like a quick line that reminds me almost of like the character selector from Super Dodgeball, as weird as that sounds.
Okay.
But that's about it. I enjoyed the music that I heard on the soundtrack.
I thought it was good. I was entertained by it. I will say that I think that this is a very purely like Japanese game that you would really only play if you were from Japan.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, but the anime sounds great. It sounds really cool. So I'll have to check it out.
Yeah, I highly recommend it.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah, so then these composers, Keiichi Yamamoto, started out doing music on this game, Cyber City 808. Also credited for Mamono Hunter Yoko Dai 7 no Keisho in 1991 on the Genesis. The stuff that I'm seeing here is all very Japanese, so it looks like the games that they worked on were not games that really were going to be ported outside of Japan. Sotsugyo Graduation Rio in 1996 on the PlayStation, and their last credit is 1998 for Debut 21. Atsuhiro Motoyama, so that do music and sound on Digital Champ Battle Boxing in 1989. That's a TurboGrafx 16 game. Speaking of TurboGrafx 16, he did Rom Rom Stadium in 1989. The Adventures of Star Saver in 1991 on the Game Boy, but it looks like they worked on stuff through the 90s, through the 2000s. The most recent composition credit is for BGM on Umihara Kawase Fresh in 2000.
Oh, Umihara Kawase Fresh?
Yes.
Yeah.
In Dia 2019 on Nintendo Switch.
Yep.
Miyuki Takagi, just a few things here. Their first credit for music was Rom Rom Stadium in 1989 with TurboGrafx 16 as well. They did Kickball in 1990 on the TurboGrafx 16. And the last credit is actually just for an additional voice in the last story in 2011.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Nice. And the last person we have here, Atsushi Yamaji, started also on Rom Rom Stadium in 1989. We've got music on Shojiku Yosai Macross 2036, 1992 on the TurboGrafx CD or the PC Engine CD. Yakuza 2 and 4, they are listed as composers 2006 and 2010 respectively. And their most recent credit is in 2015 for D4, Dark Dreams Don't Die on Windows and Xbox One.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very cool.
All right, let's round things out here. What are you going to close us out with?
Yeah, so I'm going to play a track from a game that I have probably played more than any game over the past, I'd say, 5 years. This is from Marvel Snap. This came out on mobile, iOS, it's available on Steam. 2022 was the year of the original release. Build Your Team is the name of the track, and it's composed by Christopher Allen Rebois. All right. That is it for us. That was our final track of the episodes from Marvel Snap, which came out on mobile, iOS, and Steam in 2022. Build Your Team is the name of the track, and it's by Christopher Allen Grabar.
Your thoughts? This is really cool. Kind of bombastic. Not really as high energy as what I would normally call bombastic, but like the horns,
kind of plucky,
the drums. Yeah, the sounds used in it are fall in the right category. It's not one of those high energy, in your face kind of tracks.
Yeah,
but it definitely feels like a making decision kind of a kind of a song.
Very much so.
I'm guessing by the name of the track that you are. This is the card game, right?
Yes.
Yeah, the mobile card game. Yeah. So I'm assuming this is you choosing what cards you're going to put in your deck or however it works before you actually have your match.
Correct. Yes.
Cool.
I love this game. I play it all the time. Every day, all the time. And I guess when I say that, I mean bathroom breaks. When I'm hanging out and it's not time to bring the kids to school yet, or, just eating something and, playing it. I've got it on Steam. I've also got it on my phone, and it's a problem. I love this game. So it's a deck building card game where you're essentially collecting Marvel trading cards with art from various covers and comic books and artists and et cetera, et cetera. And then every card has an ability for the most part. Most cards, like 99% of the cards, have abilities. There's a number on the top left and a number on the top right. The number on the top left is the turn number, and then the card to the right is how many points the card is worth in terms of fighting. The point of the game is there's 3 different locations every time you play. Each one is revealed during each subsequent turn. So turn 1, the first one, turn 2, the middle one, turn 3, the last one on the right. And it's just wild. It's so much fun. You build the decks based on whatever you want. It's free reign. You can do whatever you want. I've got about 12 to 14 decks, I think, at this point built. I based everything based on the franchise. So I have a Fantastic Four deck. I have an X-Men deck. I have an X-Men Gold deck, an X-Men Blue deck. I have a Wolverine deck with characters specific to Wolverine for the most part. And, so I tried as best as I could to stay focused on that in terms of building decks. But then my kids got into it and they liked watching me play it too. So I did a deck for my oldest kid and a deck for my youngest kid and let them pick the cards. So it's
Nice.
pretty fun. And my oldest daughter, Rose, picked a deck that she put together that's actually pretty good.
Oh.
Yeah, so I've won a bunch of matches. And she plays too. I've taught her how to play it. It's fun. It's awesome. And it has reawakened my interest in trading cards again. So now I'm collecting Marvel trading cards, which is a slippery slope.
Oh, yeah.
But it's just a lot of fun. It's fun to win matches. Every month there's a different season that they introduce, and you can pay $10 for the season if you want. I've only done it once, which was during Deadpool Wolverine, because they had a ton of Deadpool and Wolverine cards.
Of course.
So I did that. But they do different themes. This month's theme for March is Savage Land Avengers or something like that, which is pretty wild. So if you're a Marvel fan, like I am, it is hands down the best trading card based video game I think I've ever played. So much fun. For this track, this is the song, exactly what you said. This is the song that you hear when you are building your deck. If you're anything like me, you spend a lot of time adjusting and fine-tuning your deck. Good song. Don't have much to say about it. It is definitely a very simple thinking man's song. I like the pluckiness of the strings. The do, 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 do. The kettle drums are really booming and big. It's the percussion's tight, so it's pretty good.
Nice.
Christopher Allen Grabar is the composer. 2 credits to their name: Marvel Snap and Talking Tom Candy Run in 2018 on the iPhone. So, yeah, they were uncredited for that one. But yeah, they're the audio director, and as far as I can tell, based on everything I've looked up, they're also the composer on this one too. So, Justin, you should go download Marvel Snap so we could play.
I'll get right on that.
Do it.
Well, I think that brings us to the next section of our show where we pick our favorite tracks?
Yeah, it's going to be tough.
Yeah. I mean, for me, there's been so much great stuff, but I just keep going back to your Barret's theme jukebox version track.
So good.
It's so good. I love it. It's fantastic. Your other stuff was great too. I really enjoyed the Amiga track for Return of Medusa. Both of your last two Marvel tracks were very good as well. But yeah, it's really hard to top the quality of that Barret track.
Yeah. Yeah, it is a good one. It's tough because as much as I would love to pick the Barret's theme, I am going with your Daytona track.
That's also fair.
I loved this track. It was such a surprise for me. So that is definitely my pick of this episode. And then I think I'd go to my Ghoul's Stomach pick from Super Ghouls and Ghosts. So, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. What were your favorite songs that we played? Let us know down in the comments in any of our social medias. So we'd like to take a moment to thank our Patreon patrons, without whom this show's continued improvement would be impossible. They are Cam Worma, Jordan and Anson Davis, Rage Cage, Kung Fu Carlito of the Heroes 3 podcast, Scott McElhone, Brad Austin, Chris Murray, Llama Adam, Red Hua, Nick Davis, Ryan McPherson, and Claire Myers.
If you would like to become a patron, you can sign up at patreon.com/xvgmradio. There you can see the different tiers as well. Just $1 gets you a thank you at the end of the show and access to our monthly live shows.
You can visit our website, xvgmradio.com, where you can listen to all the episodes and learn more about your hosts, as well as any of our guests or composers that we've had on the show.
If you'd like to reach out to us, you can always email us at xvgmradio@gmail.com.
If you've liked what you've heard, please consider giving us a review on iTunes.
You can join our Facebook group and chat with other VGM lovers at facebook.com/groups/xvgmradio, where we talk about everything from current game news to sharing awesome VGM tracks or just talking about the podcast itself.
You can also find us on Twitter and Instagram. Our handle on both of those sites is @xvgmradio.
If you don't have any other social media or just want to try something unique, check us out on our Discord group chat. Links will be in the show notes.
So on March 25th, we're going to be doing an After Dark, and it's my pick, and I'm going to do Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past. So we're going to listen to the Link to the Past soundtrack on vinyl.
That's going to be a good one.
That is. And then no live show this month, but we are going to be recording with a podcast that we have not recorded with before.
Yeah. So episode 121 is going to be, it's going to be all about product placement VGMs, the video games that were made to basically be brand vehicles like Cool Spot.
Yeah.
What was the Cheetos game?
That was the Cheetos guy, Chester Cheetah. You know.
But what was the game called?
Oh, I think it was like just Chester Cheetah in like something.
Oh, yeah, because that was a reskin too, I think.
Maybe.
But
but that's what we're going with is product placement VGM, and we're going to be bringing a special guest.
Yeah, CRT Sound System is going to join us to discuss this capitalist hellscape.
Yes. Yeah, so go check out their podcast. They're another fellow VGM podcast, so go check out their stuff as well. And that's going to do it for us. So this is Mike.
And Justin.
Signing off for XVGM Radio. Call it in the air. Oh, jeez. Are you supposed to call it, or am I supposed to call it?
You know what? Let's just start this.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, we will skip those facts that I just read, and we'll talk about them later. Anyway, I thought I turned the volume off on this. Yay, editing.